to the kill count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies and show you how they were made. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at The Lost Boys, released in 1987. The Lost Boys is a cult classic, an essential vampire flick, and one of the most 80s movies I've ever seen. It follows brothers Michael and Sam as they discover their new town is plagued by a gang of rowdy young vampires. If you couldn't tell from the title, the film takes inspiration from Peter Pan, whose eternal youth and supernatural flight formed the basis of its vampire mythos. The Lost Boys was directed by the late Joel Schumacher, whose earlier film St. Elmo's Fire helped him break out with younger audiences. He'd go on to make the bombastic 2004 Phantom of the Opera and a pair of films focused on other Bat-related characters. Though his later work proved too campy for some, The Lost Boys is an excellent mix of genres, combining horror and humor. Its blended tone works in large part thanks to a talented young cast and a finale filled with over-the-top practical effects. The Lost Boys would eventually spawn 2 sequels, a couple of comic book series, and an upcoming musical adaptation? Sure, I guess. But we're only gonna be looking at this first film for now. I've never seen the sequels, but their reputations aren't exactly sterling silver like this one's. How many people will reach the pearly gates of Neverland in this vainglorious film? Let's find out and get to the kills. The movie begins soaring over California to the awesome fucking song that is Cry Little Sister. We cut through inky waters and the inky sky to land at a boardwalk carousel kerfuffle. The gaggle of greasy teens there making this a scary go-round get their rabble-rousing broken up by a mustachioed security guard. Later, when he's leaving work, the mediator becomes a meaty snack when he's chased down and snatched up by an off-screen aerial attacker. Welcome to Santa Carla, a fictional coastal California town that its residents claim is the murder capital of the world. But this place has plenty more than just murder to offer. As a cover of People Are Strange plays, we see a montage making clear that Santa Carla is one of them weirdo towns in crunchy California. This place has burnouts, punks, hackers maybe? Creepy cable car mannequins. Oh shit, and there's Waldo. And we're just getting started, baby. We got girls gone showering, guys gone loitering, butts, Johnny's Knoxville, big ol' fucking ass, a lady making out with a rat, and trampling jail cells. Fun. Oh, and missing child posters. Lots and lots of missing child posters. Moving here from Phoenix, Arizona is the Emerson family. Single mom Lucy and her 2 sons, Sam and Michael.
Look, guys, I know the last year hasn't been easy, but I think you're really gonna like living in Santa Carla.
Yeah, Sam, you've always wanted to tongue fuck a rat. Lucy's coming off a messy divorce that's left her with both kids and no monies. She has to move back in with her eccentric dad, who, holy shit, she finds dead on the front porch? Oh my god, what a tragic way to find out about— wait, that guy's not dead.
Playing dead. And from what I heard, doing a damn good job of it, too.
Yeah, man, I counted you and everything. Sam just wants his MTV, so he's not thrilled about moving into Grandpa's taxidermy murder shack. It's a living homage to the Sawyer Chicken Room, the reference they call out by name.
Talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But hey, Santa Carla's not all bad. We're only 10 minutes in, and we've already got a sexy sax man on our screen. This Flaming Barrel Boardwalk concert is honestly kind of a throwaway scene, but it's become the stuff of pop culture legend thanks to the phenomenal performance by Tim Capello. That guy is a legit legend, having saxed up many a track for Tina Turner, in addition to touring with Peter Gabriel and Ringo Starr. More recently, he's been spoofed by John Hamm on SNL and has recorded music with the synthwave group Gunship. All that body oil whisking off of Timmy gets Michael's juices flowing, so he locks eyes with a boardwalk hottie named Star and follows her away from the show. Missing out, my man? Lucy's wandering the boardwalk as well when she comes across a little lost boy. Oh, not a titular one. She helps him find his mom, an act of kindness seen by Max, a store owner whose luggage I'm pretty sure wound up with David Byrne one time. Lucy needs a job, so she gets one working at Max's video store, since his only other employee had all her other scenes and speaking parts cut from the movie. Shame, since it's Kelly Jo Minter, who would go on to be in Nightmare 5, as well as Popcorn and People Under the Stairs, both worth watching. The only shot of her left in this film is when she's hit on by those hairspray hooligans. At a nearby comic shop, Sam meets a couple of po' boys, Edgar and Ellen Frog. They initially reject him as an outsider based on his clothes. Sam's mall victim wardrobe was put together by costume designer Susan Becker, who previously worked with director Joel Schumacher on St. Elmo's Fire. She also designed the rebellious outfits for the Lost Boys gang. Schumacher himself was heavily involved in the film's costume and production design, which makes sense since he began his film career in those departments after graduating from fashion school. Through a respectful sparring about nerd shit, the kids reach an understanding and kinda become friends. X. At least enough for the Froggy Boys to warn Sam about the town's biggest problem.
It could save your life.
They give him a Santa Carla survival guide before getting distracted by some shoplifting punks. Later, two of those troublemakers are getting frisky in their car when it's turned into a convertible by an overhead attack, flying them both onto the count. Damn, they really just yanked those actors up with cables, huh? Michael keeps following his Lodestar as she walks around with a tiny, theater usher? Gavroche cosplayer? I don't know. Looks like her and that kid are part of the Lost Boys biker gang, and lead guy notices Mike's interest in his lady. The next night, Star approaches Michael, but dude, you saw who she rolls with, maybe give this one up. And then again, I mean, look at Jamie Gertz. She might be worth risking an ass beating.
I'm Michael.
Michael's great. I like Michael.
Well, that's good, because you're gonna hear it a whole fucking lot in this movie.
Michael?
Michael.
Michael.
Sounded like Arrested Development here.
Michael.
The Lost Boys roll up, and their leader David Powers eclipses Michael's lust for Star by being scary.
Where you going, Star?
Introductions are made, and David immediately challenges Mike to a dick-measuring motorbike race.
You don't have to beat me, Michael. You just have to try and keep up.
The ensuing sequence rules, with long shots of actual bike riding through sand and trees. Add in Lou Graham's Lost in the Shadows on the soundtrack, and you've got a heap of 80s goodness right there. The race ends with an eerie shot that crash zooms away from the riders, showing us exactly where they're headed, a foggy cliffside.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Michael loses the game of chicken and tries to save face with a one-on-one fight with David.
Just you! Come on! Just you!
The challenge earns their respect, maybe, so the gang takes them to their underground hideout. This clubhouse is a luxury hotel that sank underground 80 years ago. They say it was buried by the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, a real-life disaster that devastated the coast of Northern California. The hotel hideout is one of many awesome locations in this movie. Great work by production designer Bo Welch, who gave us lots of details to look at in places like the Boardwalk stores and Grandpa's log cabin house. One of the best inclusions is the giant picture of musician Jim Morrison back there. Morrison not only shares a striking resemblance to Michael's actor Jason Patric, he also, like the Lost Boys, is in a way forever young, having died at the age of 27. The boys haze Michael a bit by serving up noodles that might be worms and rice that might be maggots.
Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
They've either got mad powers of suggestion, or they slipped Michael acid at some point. Either way, Michael goes along with it, probably because David is just that fucking cool. David Powers is played by Kiefer Sutherland in an absolutely magnetic performance, and he makes for a hell of a Royal Rumble participant too. I love how he's not just a one-note scary bully like his character from Stand By Me. David has an allure that makes you understand why Michael wants to gain his approval even when he's so clearly dangerous. Sutherland would go on to work with director Schumacher several more times in his career, maybe since he had such a good time here. Schumacher gave his young cast creative input, and it was Sutherland who suggested David's hairstyle, a mullet with a Billy Idol look on top. David busts out a bottle adorned with tinfoil and some uncut jams. He tells Michael if he drinks from it, he'll be a cool kid just like them, and despite Star's warning,
It's blood.
Michael thinks it's just another Halloween prank, so he takes a gangrelian gulp and chug-a-lugs until he gets cross-faded. Haha, looking like a teenager with a bottle of Boone's Farm. It ushers in another hit of Cry Little Sister, which is worth it alone, Star, so chill out. The movie's excellent, often dreamy cinematography comes courtesy of DP Michael Chapman, who also shot Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, and Space Jam, but I won't hold that against him. To complete his initiation, the gang takes Michael to a rickety bridge. Damn, Kiefer, always hanging out by train tracks, huh? They're here to play a new game, and the first one up is
Michael.
Before you can say polo, them kids be jumping off the bridge. But they're just playing around with some high-stakes monkey bars. Come on, do it, Michael, do it! Do it, Michael! He does, but when a train passes overhead, the boys start to drop one by one. He hears them from below, encouraging him to join them, and since he can't pull off a fingertip pull-up, he falls into the endless fog. Thankfully, at the bottom of it is his bed. Aw, but he's getting his dirty shoes all over it, gross! Michael is now sleeping into the afternoon and has a sensitivity to sunlight, so he's either becoming a vampire or, you know, is just hungover. He and Sam are left alone that night when Lucy has a dinner date with Max, and Grandpa leaves trying to woo a widow with his taxidermy skills. Auga! Wait, hold up. Is that the same taxidermy dog from Puppet Master? It might be. After the sun sets, lights and engine noises suddenly surround the house. Sounds sounds like all the fucking Sturgis out there. But the lights and motors running get out of their highway when Michael checks outside. The festival must be over. While Sammy gets sudsy in the tub, Michael is racked with a case of the Midnight Munchies. But normal food doesn't sound as good as human flesh, even if it's related to him. His need for a sandwich overwhelms him, and he breaks into the bathroom right as little bro Nancy Thompson's his way beneath the surface. As Sam's battling Freddy, family good boy Nanu growls and attacks, protecting Sam and leaving Michael with a bloody hand. Nanu could sense what they're learning right now. Michael's been changed, as evidenced by his half-ass vamp-ass reflection. Sam doesn't take the news well.
My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
A lot of this film's humor was made up on the spot during production, which the studio didn't appreciate. They didn't like the idea of blending genres, but Schumacher stuck to his guns.
The CEOs want to know, are you making a horror movie or a comedy? And I would say go back and tell them yes.
Michael tries to give his brother some space, but his newfound powers have him floating away like he shotguns some fizzy lifting drinks. It freaks out Sam so much he tattles to his mom, sending her running away from her date with Max before it can even begin. Come on, how's this poor woman supposed to cut loose? Footloose! Michael's eventually able to convince Sam to let him inside with some basic manners.
Please.
Well, alright, but you'd better say thank you too.
Thanks.
Okay, we cool. The siblings agree to stick together, so Sam covers for his brother when their mom gets home. Seriously, this poor woman. Diane Wiest is so good as an exasperated but also very loving mom. Schumacher was surprised she accepted the role, since she had just won an Oscar for Hannah and Her Sisters. Michael sneaks away to the now empty underground hideout, where he finds Star and demands some answers about— oh, never mind, they're just gonna fuck. The two play a game of Twister in the sheet, set to, you guessed it, the greatest song ever worthy of repeat needle drops. Wow, this is like an actually sexy version of that scene from The Room. The booty apparently takes Michael straight to heaven. And not only that, but while they're cuddling in the afterglow of their juices, Michael sees his hand is healed. I'm telling you, hell of a booty. The newly 18 Jason Patric turned down the role of Michael several times, until Schumacher convinced him with the promise of creative input on the character. Kiefer Sutherland has said that Patrick was instrumental in shaping the film. It was Patrick who recommended Jamie Gertz for Star, having just worked with her in the sci-fi flick Solar Babies. The next day, Sam accompanies his mom to drop off some apology wine at Max's house. But Max's dog Thorn goes full Cujo on Lucy, and Jack Torrance is his way through the gate with his face. Damn, a lot of good boys getting bitey up in this bitch. Sam relays the incident to the Frog Brothers, recognizing Thorn as a hound of hell from his required reading.
Vampires require a daytime protector, a guardian, to watch over them as they sleep. Fierce dogs. The hounds of hell are often employed for this purpose.
Sam believes his mom's new boyfriend is the big daddy of Santa Carla's bloodsuckers, the head vampire, whose death would release any half vampires from his influence. Since Michael still has half a reflection, that means he isn't fully turned yet, so if they kill the head vampire, they can save Sam's brother. Lucy has Max over for a dinner date do-over, and Sam invites the Frog Brothers, just like a kid not thinking about how much food his mom would have to make. This poor woman! They have a stakeout of sorts, spiking Max pasta with garlic and his pants with holy water, but they fail to find evidence of him being undead. They only succeed in strengthening his stepfather energy.
I'm not trying to replace your father or steal your mother away from you. I would just like to be your friend, that's all.
This is around when the movie has a tonal shift that I don't love. The first act is perfect to me, when it's all about Santa Carla and the almost erotic thriller-esque love triangle. But every time I watch it, my attention wanes when the focus shifts from David Powers to the antics of Sam and the Frog Brothers. A lot of their stuff is just too cheesy for me.
So where are you? The flying nun?
What is that face he does there? It looks like one of those South Park characters who uses a real image for their face. The Lost Boys was originally going to have a much younger cast, being modeled largely after the Goonies.
It was really a children's movie at that time. It was very wholesome.
Goonies director Richard Donner was even going to direct, but later became an EP instead. The initial screenplay with younger characters was written by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias, who was inspired while reading Interview with the Vampire. That story features Carmilla, a 200-year-old vampire stuck in the body of a little girl. The juvenile characters were aged up when director Schumacher brought in screenwriter Jeffrey Bohm. At Schumacher's instruction, motorcycles and the hotel hangout were added to make the movie more adult and sexy, which is how he saw vampires.
They're very, very, very sexy.
In fact, The Lost Boys is sometimes credited with creating the image of the sexy young vampire. It influenced later films like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Joss Whedon has cited David as a direct inspiration for Spike in the TV series. Part of me wishes they had made the movie more mature and omitted the younger trio entirely, but I get why they kept him in. Edgar Frog is played by Corey Feldman, of course, who was already a teen idol thanks to his roles in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, Gremlins, and The Goonies, and Stand By Me, which he had just finished filming alongside Kiefer Sutherland. Sutherland. This would be Feldman's first pairing with Corey Haim, who played Sam Emerson, and who was just coming off a breakout role in the previous year's Lucas. Feldman and Haim would go on to star in 7 films together, and became known as a pair called the Two Coreys, which later served as the title of an A&E reality show about them in the late 2000s. Their story is a tragic one, plagued by substance addictions and sexual abuse, culminating in Haim's death in 2010 from pneumonia at the age of 38. As for Alan Frog, he was played by Jameson Newlander, who would go on to be in the 1988 Blob remake and Bone Tomahawk. Michael is stalking around the boardwalk looking for Star again when he finds David instead, who leads him to a beach. There's a bonfire going on here with a bunch of surf Nazis blaring Run DMC. I had no idea surf Nazis were a thing, but hell, Troma released a movie the same year called Surf Nazis Must Die, so what the fuck do I know? David tells Michael that killing and eating someone is the final step to achieving full vampirehood, which means the gang can finally let their hair down and their fangs loose. This is our first look at the excellent makeup by designer Greg Canham, whose award-winning work has been talked about a lot on the show. I love the way Canham and DP Michael Chapman gas each other up about this film.
Michael Chapman, the cinematographer, really knew how to shoot the makeups, and that doesn't happen often.
The trick of shooting makeup is having really good makeup. If you have really good makeup, you can just treat it as though it were a person, and you shoot it.
Michael can only watch in horror as the boys kick back and crack into some broskies. Wow, a head bite? That cannot be the best place from which to feed. The Lost Boys slaughter the surf Nazis and throw their bodies into the bonfire. Guess they didn't want to save any for later. Michael nearly gives in to his cravings to kill, but ultimately says no to the swasta seafood. He goes back home and is followed by Star, who reveals she's a half vampire too. I mean, probably should have guessed as much, but Michael's not exactly the quickest on the draw.
That wasn't wine they gave me to drink. It was blood. That was David's blood.
Yeah, you idiot. She literally told you that before you drank it.
It's blood.
Michael was meant to be Star's first kill, which would have cemented her place as a creature of the night. But instead of killing him, she boned him. So, I mean, consider yourself doubly lucky, dude. She asks him to help save her and that little laddie boy, another half-vamp who was half-turned pretty recently, judging by a milk carton shown earlier. With the safety of daylight, the brothers Emerson and the brothers Frog head out to the vampire den.
Hey, Grandpa! Sit up there before your car!
They get to the cliffside and make their way inside the Sawney Bean Inn, where Michael gets to work rescuing Star and Laddie. While the entrance to the vampire den was a cliffside along the Palos Verdes Peninsula, the interior was a set constructed on stage 12 of the Warner Brothers lot. Most of production was split between Warner Brothers stages and the city of Santa Cruz, whose boardwalk and surrounding mountains played the city of Santa Carla. The production is referenced in the opening of Us, which takes place in Santa Cruz.
You know, they're filming something by the carousel. You should see if they're looking for extras.
Sam and the Frog Brothers make their way deeper into the hideout, where they find David and his Batman sleeping upside down on the ceiling. Not certain who the leader is, Edgar and Alan single out the smallest vampire, Marco. He's played by Alex Winter, who 2 years later would play William S. Preston Esquire in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He recently returned to the horror genre with Shudder's Destroy All Neighbors. Against Sam's wishes, the Frog Brothers stake Marco, getting him all screamy and squirty. Oh man, and it goes everywhere! And is it glittery? They'll be impossible to clean up! The others awaken, and David gets so mad, he yells the podcast intro at him. You did me! And with this, 6 years after Chelsea first made it, we can finally say that every single movie used in the podcast/extended Dead Meat intro has now been covered on the kill count. We did it! David nearly nabs Sam, but is forced to retreat when he gets his sunburn so bad it makes the big bad vamp shed a tear. Prosthetics designer Greg Canham was hired 2 weeks into production and only had a few weeks to get the effects ready with a team that included Steve Laporte and future face-off judge V. Neal. Schumacher didn't want to cover up the good looks of his cast, so Canham created small, simple foam prosthetics for the cheeks and forehead. Also gave him weird little hand feet, gross. The focal point of the transformation was the contact lenses, which were so uncomfortable the actors had to numb their eyes before wearing them. They could only be worn a few minutes at a time, since they actually cut off oxygen to the eyeballs. The group hightails it back home, and as the sun begins to set, fortify it in preparation for a visit from David and/or the leprechaun.
I ain't no Santa Claus.
Sam tries to warn his mom about the coming attack, but she brushes him off, assuming he's trying to sabotage another date with Max. She leaves for it, and Sam sends Grandpa away on a fake date with the widow Johnson. The boys stock up on holy water and garlic like this were a Vatican luncheon. Soon enough, David and his boys wake up and fly towards their prey. At the Emerson home, Edgar is rallying the troops, letting them know we about to get some variety on this kill count.
When a vampire bites it, it's never a pretty sight. No two bloodsuckers go out the same way. Some yell and scream, some go quietly. Some explode, some implode.
Schumacher told Feldman to model his performance after tough guys Chuck Norris and Sylvester Stallone. His voice and headband are specifically inspired by Rambo. The vampire attack begins when they nearly nab Nanook, who was accidentally left tied up outside. They save the dog, but a vampire named Dwayne blasts through the chimney and knocks out both Michael and the lights. In the ensuing chaos, the Frog Brothers are cornered upstairs by a vampire named Paul.
You're mine!
Actor Brooke McCarter became good friends with Corey Haim on set and went on to become his manager after the film. It sounds like he tried to shield Haim from the negative influences in his life, but you know, there's only so much you can do. Good on him for trying though. Paul chases the duo into the bathroom where they've got a vat of anti-vamp soup brewing in the tub. Turns out garlic doesn't do shit to these guys, but holy water's still effective, as evidenced when Nanook knocks him into the tub. It triggers a steamy, screamy bath that melts Paul like a wicked witch. Yeesh, make that more like a gremlin. It also blows up the place's pipes like it were a house in Derry, Maine. Downstairs, Sam tries to wake up Michael, only to get jump scared by Dwayne. He manages to shoot the vampire with an arrow, which also electrocutes him when it pins him to a speaker. The flashy electrocution goes on for a minute and culminates with Dwayne blowing into pieces. Holy shit, that was awesome!
Death by stereo.
The siblings go to help the others upstairs, only to get separated when David singles out Michael. Sam regroups with the Frog Brothers, but Laddie's bloodlust nearly does him in. Edgar and Alan want to stake this little stinker, but Star steps in and calls for peace.
He's just a little boy.
Yeah, sure seems like it, lady. Downstairs, David and Michael have a frenemy standoff.
Tried to make you immortal.
You tried to make me a killer!
Mikey goes full vampire, so they can have an all-out vampire fight! They bounce around the cabin like a couple of pinballs, but Michael gains the upper hand and throws David onto Grandpa's taxidermy table, impaling him on some antlers like he were Linnea Quigley. Greg Canham's team actually built an elaborate David puppet for this sequence, but sadly, the shots using it were ultimately cut. Ever since Max passed the vampire test at dinner, Sam and the Frog Brothers have been trying to figure out who the head vampire is. They assumed it was David, but that doesn't seem to be the case, since he's dead now and Michael's still stuck in vampire mode.
Get away, Sam.
Mike, what's wrong?
I said get away!
Just then, Max and Lucy get back from their date to find the house completely obliterated. Lucy is understandably confused, but Max seems relatively unfazed. In fact, his reaction to seeing David dead is downright tender. That's because Max is the Big Fang Daddy after all. The reason the holy water didn't affect him earlier is because Michael accidentally invited him inside.
Well, you're the man of the house, and I'm not coming in until you invite me.
You're invited.
Vampires can usually only enter a home when they're invited. They named a whole damn remake after that fact. Just like Peter Pan, Max has been looking for a mother for his lost boys, and he thinks Lucy is the perfect candidate. And makes sense, Dracula's always seemed to go after Lucy's.
It's okay, baby, I'll protect you.
Even though Max doesn't have any boys anymore, he's still in the market for love.
I still want you, Lucy. I haven't changed my mind about that.
Max proves himself to be more than a match for Michael, so Lucy agrees to be his wife if he'll agree to spare her children. Before the match can be made final though, they're saved by Grandpa in a move that could have just as well killed his entire family. Crazy fucker drives his car straight through the wall and sends a fence post through Max, causing him to burst into a fiery pillar. Max's death frees Michael, Star, and Laddie from their half-blood existence, and the movie ends with a nonchalant Gramps complaining about the worst part of Santa Carla.
All the damn vampires.
How many boys lost their lives in The Lost Boys? Let's find out at the numbers. That is, if I still believe in them. Yes. Yes, I think I do. I still believe! I counted 14 kills in The Lost Boys, with the victims consisting of 1 woman and 13 men or boys. That gives us this mostly Lost Blues pie chart. This is the first time we've ever seen this specific count and gender breakdown before, and I've been told I should call it a kilogami. So, there you go. With a runtime of 97 minutes, we had a kill on average every 6.93 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Dwayne. It's a heavy metal twist on the classic stake through the heart kill, and y'all know how much I love exploding heads. Dull Machete for lamest kill will go to the security guard. I actually like the way it's done, but most of the other deaths were gnarly, and this style of kill was more thrilling with the convertible couple. And that's it. The Lost Boys was released in 1987, but wouldn't get a sequel until 2008 with Lost Boys The Tribe. I'll only look at that if there's like high demand, so email your request to deadmeatmovies@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count. Hey everybody, thanks a lot for watching this Lost Boys podcast. No, it's not a podcast, it's a fucking kill count. Why'd I say that? Maybe because we already covered Lost Boys on the podcast a few months ago. Then after that, like I showed in this episode, David Powers was an entrant in the Horror Royal Rumble this year. How'd he do? Well, I'll let you watch the match and find out. I'm really honestly digging this outfit and like this fake earring I got. Although check it out, I don't know if I can actually ever get my ears pierced because I don't have earlobes. You see that? It just like crash runs into my head. My earlobe forgets to go back up. It just is like, oh, okay, we're done here. A little like elf earlobes. They're the most detached earlobes I've ever seen. I don't know if an earring works, although I don't know. I feel like it's kind of working. I want to thank some patrons like Jason Rankin, Josh, Lucas, Plo Koon, like the Jedi Master, Zach Rango, Justin Forbes, Aquios, Hodas, Shara, and Anna Gooch. Thanks everyone, be good people.